In the heart of a sleepy town, one antique shop held a sinister secret. Join us on a chilling journey as we delve into the haunting of Emily's doll. Uncover the cursed past of a malevolent doll and a vengeful spirit. Only through bravery and the paranormal expertise of Dr. Margaret Sterling can the curse be broken. Prepare for a spine-tingling confrontation with the past. Will they escape the clutches of the haunting of Emily's doll? I never believed in the supernatural, especially not those ridiculous stories about haunted dolls. But that was before I bought Emily's doll. It all began on a cloudy Saturday afternoon. I was wandering through a quaint antique shop in a sleepy town, trying to kill time while my car was getting serviced. The shop was filled with all kinds of oddities, from dusty old books to tarnished silverware. It was the kind of place you could spend hours sifting through and still not see everything. I was about to leave when I spotted her, Emily's doll. It was sitting on a dusty shelf, partially hidden behind a stack of faded postcards. She looked old, very old. Her porcelain skin was cracked and yellowed with age, and her once vibrant blue eyes had faded to a pale gray. Her dress, which must have been charming in its day, was now a tattered relic. Something about the doll drew me in. I couldn't explain it. Perhaps it was the air of melancholy that seemed to surround her. I couldn't resist the urge to pick her up. As I did, a cold shiver ran down my spine, but I brushed it off as a trick of the drafty old shop. The shopkeeper, an elderly man with a long gray beard, shuffled over to me. "Ah, you've found Emily's doll," he said, his voice tinged with a strange mixture of sadness and relief. "Emily's doll?" I asked, intrigued. "Yes," he replied. "That doll has quite a history. It belonged to Emily Winters, a young girl who lived in this town many years ago. She was a strange child, always talking to that doll as if it were alive." I raised an eyebrow, but he continued. "Emily claimed the doll was her best friend. She'd sit for hours in her room whispering secrets to it. But one day she stopped coming to the shop. Her family said she'd fallen ill. Then, a few weeks later, her father came in with that very doll and asked me to sell it. Said he didn't want any reminders of his daughter." I felt a twinge of unease as the old man spoke. The doll suddenly seemed less charming and more like a relic of a tragic past, but something still compelled me to take it home. I paid the shopkeeper and left with the doll, feeling both excitement and a strange sense of foreboding. As I drove home with Emily's doll seated on the passenger seat, I couldn't help but think of the tragic story I'd heard. How could a doll be so important to a child? The notion was baffling to me. Still, I was drawn to the doll, its forlorn expression tugging at something deep within me. When I arrived home, I placed the doll on a shelf in my study. It felt right there, as though it had found its home. I couldn't explain it. It was as if the doll was meant to be with me. For the first few days, nothing out of the ordinary happened. I went about my usual routine, spending my days working from home and my evenings relaxing with a book or a movie. But as the days turned into weeks, strange things began to occur. At first, it was small, inconspicuous things. A book that I'd left on my desk would end up on the floor, or the radio would turn itself on at odd hours of the night. I chalked it up to stress or sleep deprivation. But then the occurrences became more pronounced. One evening, I was reading in bed when I heard a faint, eerie giggle coming from the study. I put my book down and went to investigate, half expecting to find an open window or a draft. Instead, I found the doll, Emily's doll, sitting on the floor in the middle of the room. I hadn't placed it there. I was sure of it. I picked up the doll and returned it to the shelf, feeling a chill run down my spine. There was no logical explanation for it, but I tried to brush it off as a bizarre coincidence. But the doll's strange behavior didn't stop there. Over the next few weeks, I would often wake up to find the doll had moved from the shelf to the foot of my bed. It would be sitting there, looking up at me with those faded gray eyes. I couldn't understand how it got there. One night I woke up to the sound of whispering. It was as though someone was speaking softly in the darkness. I turned on the light, but the room was empty. There was no one there. The whispers ceased, and I was left feeling bewildered and unnerved. As the doll's strange behavior continued, I became increasingly obsessed with it. I couldn't stop thinking about Emily's tragic story and the inexplicable events that were unfolding in my own life. It was as though the doll held some mysterious power over me. I started researching haunted dolls and paranormal phenomena, desperate to find an explanation for the doll's eerie behavior. The more I delved into the world of the supernatural, the more convinced I became that the doll was not just a relic from the past, but a vessel for something far more sinister. The strange occurrences in my home only escalated. Objects would move on their own, and I began to have vivid, disturbing nightmares. In these dreams, I was transported to a dimly lit room where I could hear Emily's laughter echoing around me. She would appear, her once faded eyes now piercing and filled with malevolence. One night, I woke up to the sensation of cold fingers brushing against my skin. I turned on the light, and the doll was on the bed next to me. I knew then that I had to get rid of it, that it was the source of my torment. I contacted a paranormal expert, a woman named Dr. Margaret Sterling, who specialized in investigating haunted objects. She agreed to come to my home and assess the situation. Dr. Sterling arrived on a stormy evening, her gray hair pulled back into a tight bun. She carried an air of authority and a sense of calm that reassured me. She examined the doll and confirmed my suspicions. It was indeed a vessel for a malevolent spirit, and she believed that the spirit was none other than Emily herself. Emily's attachment to the doll was so strong that it transcended death, Dr. Sterling explained. She's trapped here, unable to move on to the afterlife. Her soul is bound to the doll, and it's feeding off your energy to sustain itself. I was terrified, but I had to find a way to free Emily and rid myself of the doll's influence. Dr. Sterling performed a seance in an attempt to communicate with Emily's spirit. It was a harrowing experience, with the doll moving and levitating on its own, and the room growing frigid. Through the seance, we learned that Emily had suffered a tragic accident as a child, which had led to her untimely death. Her spirit had latched onto the doll as a means of clinging to the world she had been torn from. Dr. Sterling worked tirelessly to help Emily find peace, and after several sessions, the doll's behavior finally ceased. With Emily's spirit at rest, I thought the ordeal was over. The doll had been returned to the antique shop, and I had finally found some semblance of normalcy in my life. But I was wrong. A few months after Emily's spirit had been put to rest, I received a package in the mail. It was the doll. I hadn't ordered it, and there was no return address. My heart sank as I realized that the doll had returned, its malevolence undiminished. The strange occurrences began anew, and I knew that I needed to take more drastic measures. Dr. Sterling and I embarked on a journey to uncover the origins of the doll's curse and how to break it once and for all. Through our research, we discovered that the doll had been created by a reclusive doll maker in the late 19th century. He had been known for his intricate craftsmanship, but had also been rumored to dabble in the occult. It was believed that he had used dark rituals to bind the spirits of the deceased to his creations. Dr. Sterling and I traveled to the doll maker's abandoned workshop, hidden deep in the woods. It was a decrepit, eerie place filled with rows of disheveled, lifeless dolls. As we delved deeper into the workshop, we found a hidden chamber, and inside it, a journal that detailed the dark rituals the doll maker had performed. We learned that the doll maker had used the spirits of the deceased to imbue his creations with a semblance of life. But he had gone too far, bending malevolent spirits to some of his dolls. The journal revealed that the only way to break the curse was to find the doll maker's final creation, a doll known as the Vessel, and perform a ritual to transfer the malevolent spirits to it. We set out to find the Vessel, and our search led us to a dilapidated, abandoned mansion in the woods. It was there that we encountered the doll maker's final creation, a grotesque and terrifying doll with dark, empty eyes. Dr. Sterling performed the ritual, and the malevolent spirits were transferred from Emily's doll to the vessel. But as the ritual reached its climax, the mansion trembled, and a malevolent force manifested in the form of a shadowy figure. It was the doll maker's vengeful spirit, bound to the malevolent dolls he had created. He lunged at us, a maelstrom of darkness and rage. Dr. Sterling and I fought back with every ounce of strength we had, using the power of the ritual to weaken the doll maker's spirit. In the end, we were successful in banishing the doll maker's spirit, but the vessel was destroyed in the process. It was a small price to pay to finally rid ourselves of the malevolent doll. With the curse broken, the strange occurrences that had plagued me for so long ceased, and I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. I knew that I would never truly understand the nature of the supernatural, but I had learned that there were forces beyond our comprehension that could bind us to the past. As I sit here writing this account of my harrowing experience, I can't help but wonder what became of Emily's doll and the vessel. Were they truly destroyed, or do they still exist waiting to ensnare another unsuspecting victim? The world is a mysterious place filled with tragedy. But one thing is certain: I will never look at a doll in the same way again. It's time to bid adieu to the Twisted Nightmare Chronicles. Thanks for diving into the darkness with us. We hope you enjoyed the journey. If you relish the spine-tingling narratives, show your support by subscribing, give us a thumbs up, and enable notifications. Join us in the Twisted Nightmare Chronicles for more chilling stories and eerie adventures. Until next time.